Indianapolis has some of the nation's worst air quality. The impact is felt most in historically redlined neighborhoods. That is according to the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana.
News 8's Malia Van Ostrand takes a look at how that negatively impacts people of color.
The Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana is shedding a light on how these environmental injustices are affecting the health and housing inequalities in these communities. These areas are often home to Black and marginalized communities and house many industrial facilities and contaminated sites such as Superfunds and brownfields. Only 20 out of the state's 54 Superfund sites are now clean and usable land. According to a report by the FHCCI, half of the brownfield sites are within 2 miles or less of HUD-funded public housing.
Brownfield sites are lesser of a priority, and the priority for funding comes from state and local government agencies or entities to make them a priority to clean them up.
The health effects on people who live in these areas include both physical and mental impacts, such as stress levels, depression, and lead exposure. Ripberger says life expectancy for communities of color is 17 years shorter compared to those living in mostly white neighborhoods.
Communities of color, especially in low-income households, are living in our older households, which have a higher presence of lead exposure. And so any amount of lead exposure to children under the age of 18 is detrimental for future health.
The report says as the state's climate continues to change, nearly 300,000 houses are expected to experience inland flooding by 2050.
The reason that this is so concerning is that many people across the state are not required at the federal level to have flood insurance because FEMA has outdated systems that do not require certain flood insurance. And oftentimes, these houses are located in floodplains that might unfortunately lose their housing by the year 2050.
Ripberger says talking about the problem is the first step.
Do you smell things in the middle of the day that should not be smelling like that? Are you located next to highways that have completely polluted or gutted your communities? Are you located in areas where trees are deteriorating or disappearing rather than appearing and being planted?
In Indianapolis, I'm Malia Van Ostrand, Wish TV, wishtv.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.